Something ancient has been brushing against the edge of your days. A quiet hum beneath the chatter of your thoughts. A pressure that doesn't hurt, yet refuses to be ignored. You sense it most in still moments, between one breath and the next, when the world looks exactly the same, and somehow everything feels different. That right there is contact. Not superstition, not panic, not another fleeting mood, but the first soft knock of a messenger that did not cross a horizon of stars to be debated. It came to be recognized. They named it 3i Atlas, a traveler from beyond our solar borders. But a traveler this is not. This is a carrier wave, a living frequency woven with memory, a summons that only stirs those who already carry its echo in their bones. If your heart has been beating with a rhythm that doesn't match the clock, if your nights are heavier and your intuition's louder, you are not malfunctioning. You are being tuned. Feel how the air has thickened around the edges of ordinary life. How silence has gained a presence of its own. How a single glance at the sky sometimes feels like a mirror held up to your soul. That is the first mercy of this light. It does not shout. It sits with you. It moves through your room like a tide no window can keep out, and it asks, gently but with a gravity you cannot mistake, are you ready to remember? Not to collect new ideas, not to adopt trendy language, but to remember who you were before fear taught your voice to whisper. The pulse you've been sensing is not chaos arriving. It is alignment approaching. It is the universe clearing its throat in your direction, telling you that timidity has run its course, and the old disguises are too small for the size of your soul. You will know the difference, because this light does not negotiate with confusion. It brings clarity, the kind that doesn't need permission slips from your past. When it brushes your spirit, anxiety does not spike. Peace expands. Even when tears rise without warning, they don't drown you, they wash you. The mind will look for a label and find none that fits. Because what is happening isn't psychological decoration, it's spiritual recognition. This isn't about charts or systems or the approval of those who never looked beyond the ceiling of their own doubt. It's about resonance, the intimate handshake between a code in the heavens and a code in you. The blueprint in your chest answering a song it has missed without knowing its name. There is a reason time feels elastic lately, while you catch the same numbers repeating and the same names reappearing, as if the day itself were leaving breadcrumbs. There is a reason your dreams have acquired texture, why you wake from them more certain than you are from some conversations. The reason is that 3i Atlas does not simply pass by the earth. It threads itself through human awareness like a filament of light through glass, strengthening what was fragile, steadying what was scattered, calling home what wandered. For the awake, it feels like returning to a place you have never visited. For the half asleep, it feels like a question that won't stop, a holy pressure, a sacred insistence. If you are honest, you can admit it. The more you lean toward this pulse, the more you recognize it as your own. Do not be surprised if the familiar begins to feel heavy. The rooms where you once shrank will start to echo with the outline of who you are becoming. The conversations that used to distract will feel thin against the marrow of this new clarity. Even your body, faithful messenger that it is, will speak. Subtle chills, a warm flutter behind the eyes, a deep breath that arrives, as if on cue when you look at the night sky. None of that is random. The signal is not asking for your analysis. It is asking for your consent. Let it. Let it walk your inner corridors with quiet feet. Let it open windows you painted shut. Let it sit in the chair of your attention and teach you how to listen past the noise you inherited. And if, right now, your spirit is nodding even as your mind scrambles for guardrails, hear this with a calm that is already on its way to you. You are not late, you are not lost, and you have not missed a single turn you were meant to take. The light is patient. It knows the roads you have walked and the masks you have retired. It knows the exact moment to press its palm against your chest and remind your heart of its original assignment. That moment is this one. Lift your eyes. Feel the pulse. Give it a name if you must. But more importantly, give it room. Because what is arriving is not merely a sign in the sky, it is a sign in you. The sky has begun to speak in your native tongue, and every syllable says the same thing. Remember, there comes a moment when the glow you've been sensing stops hovering like weather and steps inside like a guest who knows the way. It doesn't knock loudly. It touches the shelves where you've stored your old stories, opens boxes you labeled later, and holds each fragment of you up to the light. This is the mercy and the firmness of the current moving through 3i Atlas. It refuses to decorate illusions. It will never make a prison look pretty. It would rather open the door. At first, that opening can feel like losing control. Emotions rising without warning, memories surfacing with inconvenient timing, truths you tried to manage walking back into the room with their heads high. But give it a moment. Watch how the chaos you feared begins to arrange itself into a pattern you somehow recognize, like constellations gradually separating from a spray of stars. The light is not here to shame you. It is here to make honesty feel like oxygen. You will notice it in the small ways first. The laugh you forced to keep the peace tastes different in your mouth. The apology you used to offer so others wouldn't have to grows heavy on your tongue. The places where you've been shrinking suddenly feel too tight, as if your soul has outgrown the chair you kept placing it in. The messenger honors none of the agreements you made with your fear. It respects only your truth. And when truth stands upright in the center of your chest, it does not ask permission to breathe. It inhales, and with that single breath, the room changes. Conversations tilt toward clarity. Timelines rearrange. The people who were drawn to a muted version of you become restless, while those whose hearts carry matching codes drift closer without fanfare. You don't push them away or pull them in. You just become more visible to what is real. The revealing has a soundtrack. It sounds like silence becoming kind. It sounds like the thud of old armor hitting the floor. It sounds like your name spoken without hurry. You may find yourself waking in the night, not with panic, but with a vivid calm, as if someone turned on a lamp inside your ribcage and invited you to look around. Walk those halls with reverence. Touch the walls. Notice the doorways you boarded up, because the world once told you the rooms beyond them were dangerous. Atlas is a keeper of keys. It has not come to burn your house down, but to return you to all of it. Where you braced, it softens. Where you froze, it warms. Where you hid, it sits down and waits, patient as starlight. Little by little you realize that what you called falling apart is actually the clean geometry of a life reassembling in the only way it can hold this much light. Do not be surprised if the scaffolding that held up your performance begins to creak. The roles you played to keep love nearby will feel heavy on your shoulders. The plans that were powered mostly by shoulds will show their seams. This is not failure. This is gravity returning you to what can carry you. The messenger does not deal in punishment. It deals in precision. It will remove what cannot survive in thinner air, then place a hand at the small of your back and guide you toward roomier altitudes. You will forgive some things you were sure you'd never release, not because the harm was small, but because the truth in you has become larger. You will set boundaries you thought you were too kind to set, not because kindness has left you, but because it has matured into stewardship. You will grieve versions of yourself that did beautiful work just to keep you here, and you will thank them as they bow and let the next you step forward. Under this kind of revealing, the body speaks in clear sentences. A weight lifts from your chest after a conversation you were afraid to have. A headache dissolves the moment you tell the truth you kept editing. Fatigue eases when you put down what was never yours to carry. The messenger does not bypass the body. It honors it. It knows how often your nervous system wrote history while your mind argued with the facts. So it comes gently, repeats itself softly, and lets your cells learn what your spirit already knows. Safety is not found in hiding, but in alignment. You will feel tired sometimes. Rebirth is labor after all. But the tired changes. It becomes the sweet ache of a house cleaned, of a field tilled, of muscles used in exactly the ways they were designed. And when you wonder whether you are strong enough for this, the sky will answer without a word. A single cloud will move, and you'll feel the shift in your bones. A street light will flare the instant you decide to tell the truth. The right sentence will arrive in the mouth of a stranger at the exact hour you needed it. None of it is random, and none of it is proof you must hoard. The signs won't be trophies. They'll be breadcrumbs leading you back to the table you almost forgot was yours. Sit there. Eat. Speak plainly. The messenger did not cross the dark to flatter you into a better mood. It came to restore your original shape. And as that shape returns, you will notice something quietly astonishing. The world does not push back. It rearranges. It was waiting too. You are not unraveling. You are being tuned. What's moving through you now is not a wild wind sent to scatter your life, but a precise current that knows exactly which strings in you have been slack and which have been pulled too tight. It does not roar to frighten you. It hums to find your note. This is why some nights feel electric and sleep comes in shallow pools. Why your emotions crest without warning and then settle like a lake after rain. The frequency riding with 3i Atlas is a cosmic tuning fork striking the atmosphere. Your soul vibrates in answer, releasing old static you didn't know you were carrying. Guilt that pretended to be responsibility. Fear that dressed itself as caution. Resentment that wore the mask of certainty. They rise to the surface because light insists on clean sound. And if your body aches as these echoes leave, if your chest tightens, if your head throbs, if a wave of tiredness rolls through you midday, trust this. It is not a collapse. It is renovation in progress, scaffolding going up around the sacred architecture of your becoming. You will notice how the places that once felt safe now feel oddly heavy, as if the room shrank while you were out gathering truth. The old chair of compromise doesn't fit you anymore. The habits you used to lean on for comfort taste stale on your tongue. Even your calendar will tell the story. The appointments that were powered by obligation fall away. The conversations that used to drain you lose their appetite for your time. The people who always needed you small will feel the distance as you quietly grow. Do not be alarmed by the tilt. When a compass remembers north, everything else must realign. The storm is the turn. Your part is to breathe with it. Long, honest breaths that make space for the new air. And to let your shoulders unclench around changes that are not here to punish, but to purify. There is a moment in every recalibration when the mind demands a map and the heart hands it a rhythm instead. This is that moment. You won't always have the how on paper, but you will have a pulse in your palm that answers when you lay a hand over your sternum. Trust that pulse. It will nudge you to speak a sentence you have swallowed for years, and the room will soften. It will ask you to rest when your old self would have powered through, and the work will meet you more easily tomorrow. It will guide you to send a message, cancel a plan, take a walk, drink a glass of water, turn off the light. Tiny obediences that sound too simple to matter until you watch how reality rearranges to honor them. This is the new physics of your life. Alignment first, evidence after. And yes, there will be tests. Small, exacting invitations to choose resonance over routine. The familiar will knock. It will offer you an old storyline, repayment in the currency of your past. Smile at it. Thank it for the lessons it brought. Then let it pass. The storm has not come to return you to what you outgrew. It has come to return you to yourself. Each time you refuse to shrink back into the costume that once won you applause, the current strengthens. Each time you tell the truth before you're sure it will be understood, the air around you brightens. Each time you honor the boundary your nervous system begged you to draw, life answers with a cleaner horizon. This is what it means to be tuned. Not playing louder, but playing clear. If you need a sign that you are held inside this process, step outside at dusk. Watch the sky trade its colors slowly, without panic. Notice how the wind moves the leaves, but does not uproot the tree. Hear the city soften as lights flicker on, each window a small promise that illumination doesn't have to shout to be real. You are learning that too. You don't need to announce your transformation. You only need to live it. Quiet, steady, inevitable. And as you do, the storm that once felt like a threat becomes what it always was. A sacred metronome marking time to your next, truer timer. There is a reason you feel pulled towards something you cannot yet name. A reason a quiet current keeps circling back to the same inner door. The light riding with 3-eye Atlas does not arrive empty-handed. It carries a key cut to the contours of your soul. And when it touches you, locks you thought were part of the wall begin to click open. Rooms you sealed for survival, childhood courage, unspent tenderness, the voice you hid so well you forgot where you put it, fill with air again. This is not a lesson you have to study. It is a memory returning to its owner. The intuition that used to flicker like a candle in the draft steadies into a lamp. The sense of timing you could never explain. Why you turned left instead of right. Why you waited one more day. Starts to feel less like luck and more like a conversation you're finally hearing clearly. You notice how the world answers when you speak from the center. Doors unlatch without force. The right name appears at the right hour. A sentence you needed lands in your lap from a book you almost didn't open. None of this is random. It is what happens when the code that lives in your bones boots back up and your life begins to recognize its true user. As this memory awakens, your attention learns a new grammar. Numbers repeat like drum beats. A color follows you through the week. A stranger says a phrase you wrote in a journal last year. You are not chasing signs anymore. You are being followed by coherence. Even your dreams change temperature. They stop running from you and start meeting you halfway, carrying symbols that don't require decoding so much as receiving. You wake with sentences, with certainty, with the soft ache of something right around the corner. And in the daylight, the same intelligence threads through ordinary hours. You put a hand on your chest and the panic quiets. You change one word and the whole conversation softens. You take a slower road home and pass exactly what you needed to see. The veil between out there and in here thins until guidance feels less like a message and more like a merger. The universe isn't shouting from a distance. It is speaking from inside your breath. With remembrance comes responsibility, not the heavy kind that bows your back, but the noble kind that straightens your spine. The more you remember, the less your life tolerates games you learn to play to stay liked. The less your voice agrees to carry what isn't true. The less your calendar can host what brings you dullness instead of devotion. This is where the code proves its power. Not by making you invincible, but by making you honest. You will say no sooner, yes, cleaner, and silence more often, not to disappear, but to listen for the precise thread your soul was spun to follow. People may be puzzled. Some will feel the difference and lean in with relief. Others will try to renegotiate you back into the version of yourself that never asked much and never asked for much. Bless them. Then keep walking. You are not abandoning anyone. You are abandoning the bargain that cost you yourself. Soon the remembrance will begin to move through your hands. The ideas you shelved will ask to be built. A melody finds you in the shower and refuses to leave. Words gather at the edges of your day until you give them a page. The solution no one could see shows up while you're tying your shoes. This is how purpose behaves when the gate is open. Like water under pressure, finding the quickest path to daylight. Do not wait for permission to let it through. Begin with what you have, where you stand, in the size that fits today. The code does not demand spectacle, it demands fidelity. If you show up to meet it, It will multiply your offering the way sunlight multiplies a seed, quietly, inevitably, in its own fine time. And if fear rises, as the light rises, and it will, remember this. Fear is not a verdict. It is a reflex. You are not obligated to agree with it. Place your palm over your heart and breathe until your ribs loosen. Whisper the truth out loud so your nervous system can hear you. Nothing essential is being taken. Only what was false is being asked to step aside. Then take the next small, exact step your inner weather permits. That is how the code stays online. Not with grand gestures, but with 1,000 faithful choices that tell the universe, I remember who I am, and I am behaving accordingly. There comes a moment in every true awakening when the light stops knocking politely and simply walks in. It does not storm the gates or break the furniture. It opens the windows and lets the air do what air has always done. Move. That is what the 3i Atlas current does once the code inside you has begun to hum. It doesn't punish. It purifies. It finds the dust in the corners where you hid the parts of yourself you weren't ready to love. And it lifts them into the sun. From the outside, it can look like loss, like endings, like a string of inconveniences too precise to call random. On the inside, it feels like pressure in the ribs, a tightness in the throat before a necessary word, a silence that asks for courage. This is not collapse. It is clarity arriving faster than your habits can adjust. You will notice it first in places where you once went numb. Conversations that used to drift past you now hit a clean edge in the center of your chest. Enough. Patterns you excused because they were familiar begin to show their price tags, and the cost is always the same. Your aliveness. The light does not shame you for paying it. It simply invites you to stop. This is the sacred heat of refinement. It makes pretense sweat. It loosens the glue binding you to roles you outgrew. It asks you to trade the politeness of self-betrayal for the kindness of self-truth. Some will call it arrogance, when you stop shrinking to fit a room. But the soul knows the difference between arrogance and accuracy. Accuracy is standing the size you were made, and letting love decide what stays near that size. As refinement deepens, the body speaks in a language older than thought. A weight settles on your shoulders the instant you step toward what is wrong for you. Your breath expands when you move toward what is right. Muscle, gut, skin. Each becomes an instrument the light can play. If a headache arrives when you agree to something your spirit never signed, consider that a bell, not a flaw. If a sudden calm fills you after a hard decision, trust it. Relief is the footprint truth leaves behind when it walks through a room. You do not have to interrogate every signal. You have to honor them. The fire without smoke teaches you that listening is a form of prayer, and alignment is how that prayer is answered. Refinement will visit your calendar and your closet, your browser tabs and your bedside table. It will ask what you feed your eyes, what you let into your ears, what you worship with your attention. Not because purity is a performance, but because resonance is a reality. What you behold, you begin to become. If you start choosing sources that strengthen your spine and soften your face, do not be surprised when your days take on the texture of that choice. If you step away from voices that confuse your compass, do not mourn the quiet that follows. That silence is where the next coordinates arrive. The light will not demand austerity. It will invite precision. Give it room, and it will give you back your time. Relationships are the finest kiln of all, and the fire will prove itself there. The 3i Atlas frequency is not cruel. It is exact. It will not ask you to discard people. It will ask you to discard dynamics that keep both of you small. With some souls, that means speaking the truer sentence and watching the connection grow taller overnight. With others, it means blessing them at the gate and letting paths part without making either of you the villain. The light is uninterested in blame. It is devoted to accuracy. And accuracy reveals a beautiful law. When two beings commit to truth, love becomes simpler, not harder. There may be tears. There will also be oxygen. As old scaffolding falls, emptiness can echo. The reflex is to fill it quickly, to grab the nearest replacement so the floor stops squeaking. Resist that reflex. The empty is not a failure, it is a field. Leave a little unassigned space in your day, a little unprogrammed hour in your evening, a little unspoken portion in your conversations. In that spare acreage, the new frequency can plant what will actually feed you. If you rush to reseed with the same species of compromise, you will miss the harvest the cosmos aimed at your hands. Patience in a clearing is power. It tells the universe you trust your life enough not to stuff it with noise. There will be hours when the heat climbs and your old names for yourself. Too much, too sensitive, too late. Try to take the microphone. This is where you practice staying. Place your palm against your sternum and breathe until you feel the subtle lift meet your hand. Tell those names thank you for trying to keep you safe. Then retire them like coats that no longer fit your weather. You are not too much. You are finally matching. You are not too sensitive. You are properly tuned. You are not too late. You are right on the clock of a sky that measures time in truth, not in hurry. The wonder of this fire is that it refuses to leave ash. What it burns is what was never yours. Borrowed masks, inherited fears, the choreography you learned to earn belonging. What remains is elemental. The voice that does not shake when it speaks from love. The eyes that choose wonder even when the world is loud. The hands that build because building is their joy. You become easier to read and harder to sway. You stop negotiating your yes. You stop apologizing for your no. You start blessing the exact ground under your feet and the exact breath in your lungs. And the ground answers, and the breath thickens with presence. And then, almost without noticing, you realize the fire has shifted from outside to inside. You are not just being refined. You are a refining presence. Rooms settle when you enter. Quarrels forget their script. Possibility shows up early and takes a seat in the front row. Not because you perform serenity, but because you carry coherence. The world recognizes that frequency the way a forest recognizes rain. It drinks, it softens, it grows. This is the quiet authority the 3i Atlas current awakens, a life that does not argue with shadows, a life that remembers it is a lamp and chooses day after day to stay lit. You do not have to climb a mountain to meet this light. It is already threading itself through your ordinary hours, asking for a place to land. The truest proof of ascension is not what you feel at midnight when the sky hums, but who you become at noon when emails, traffic, and unanswered questions stack like stones. 3i Atlas did not arrive to make you escape the world. It came to help you inhabit it with a higher fidelity. When the pulse moves through you, it does not ask for dramatic gestures. It asks for sincerity. It asks you to treat your breath as a doorway, your posture as a prayer, your attention as a temple. With every small moment of presence, the frequency stabilizes, and the storm that once rattled your bones settles into a river that quietly carves new paths through your life. You may notice conversation changing first. Words that used to rush out now arrive, measured, warm, precise. You choose silence where noise once lived, and in that silence you hear the soft mechanics of destiny aligning. People feel the difference before you announce it. They sense a clarity in your gaze and a gentleness that does not bend to chaos. This is what embodiment looks like. The light no longer flashes through you like lightning. It roots like a luminous spine. You become difficult to provoke, easy to confide in, uninteresting to darkness. The old triggers knock but find no handle. The old stories ask to be told again, and you smile, thank them for their past service, and let them go without ceremony. The world will call this maturity. Heaven calls it resonance, finely held by a human frame. There will still be days when the frequency buckles and the body remembers how to shake. On those days, you are not failing. You are integrating. Treat the tremor as a choir warming its throat. Offer water to your cells as if you were watering a field after drought. Move as though gravity is a partner and not a weight. Let tears do their clean work. Within hours, sometimes minutes, you will feel the inner weather turn, clouds thinning into a strange golden clarity. 3i Atlas is not a performance to maintain. It is a companionship to welcome. The more naturally you welcome it, the less you will reach for proof and the more you will notice results. Choices made with quiet certainty. Doors opening without force, paths closing without bitterness, a center inside you that does not bargain with fear. You will also discover that service becomes effortless, not sacrifice born of guilt, but overflow born of alignment. A message you delayed sending suddenly becomes the thread that mends someone else's day. A conversation you used to avoid becomes a bridge instead of a battlefield. You walk into rooms, and the temperature of the unseen shifts. Arguments lose sharpness, shame loosens its grip, laughter returns as if it had been waiting outside for permission. This is not charisma. This is coherence. The grid of light recognizes itself and organizes around you. Even the timing of your footsteps seems to cooperate with what wants to bloom. You miss buses to meet precisely who you needed. You arrive early to hear exactly what would have been missed if you were on time. What the world calls coincidence, your spirit now names choreography. Authority rises in you without hardness. You do not need to win debates because your presence does not argue, it reveals. You bless more than you correct. You create more than you critique. You plant more than you pull. The energy that used to leak through worry is reclaimed by devotion, and devotion turns into a steady current that powers your craft, your care, your calling. Even rest changes flavor. Sleep becomes pilgrimage. Waking becomes a vow renewed. The first inhale of morning carries the certainty that you are both carried and commissioned, cradled and called. The simplest tasks, washing a dish, tying a shoe, sending a note, become rituals of agreement with the frequency that sought you across galaxies and now prefers to live where you live. Do not be surprised if those closest to you ask what shifted. Explain little and demonstrate much. Let your schedule speak of your priorities and your patience tell the story of your strength. Some will resist your new steadiness, not because it threatens them, but because it asks them to meet their own light. Love them where they stand without dimming. The point is not to convert, it is to conduct. When you conduct cleanly, the current finds its way. The right companions appear at right angles. The right mentors speak at right volumes. The right students recognize a rightness in you they have been seeking in themselves. This is how a movement happens without banners. This is how a constellation emerges without ever having to point at the sky. If a flare of doubt still flickers, place a hand over your chest and listen for what has become unmistakable. A rhythm that is yours and more than yours at once. That is the covenant beating. It says, do not rush. Do not shrink. Walk. It is the oldest instruction and the newest technology. Walk through your day as if the ground loves you, and notice how it responds. Walk through your conversations as if truth is gentle, and watch it land without shrapnel. Walk through your decisions as if Providence prefers partnership, and feel how doors turn warm under your hand. This is not theory. It is the simplest physics of the soul. Energy follows attention, reality follows agreement, and grace follows those who consent to carry light without pretending to own it. Soon enough, others will name you a sign. They will say your calm arrived before their answer did. They will say your kindness made a map where there was only fog. They will say your refusal to hurry or hide taught them how to breathe again. Accept none of this as personal glory. Return it to the current that carried you here. The messenger in the heavens did not choose you for applause. It chose you for fidelity. Keep it simple. Keep it sacred. Keep it steady. Live as if the sky is watching through your eyes, because it is. And each ordinary day you embody that truth. The extraordinary draws closer. not like a thunderclap, but like dawn. Quiet, precise, inevitable. The sky's already done its part. It crossed a cold sea of stars to find you, pressed a living message into your chest, and waited while you learned how to hold it without shaking. You have felt the hum, you have walked through the storm, you have watched the false fall away. And now, in the quiet after the thunder, there is only this: a steadiness that was always yours, a clarity that does not need to shout, a warmth behind the eyes that says you are not borrowing light, you are remembering it. If doubt returns, let it arrive like weather and leave like weather. Truth does not hurry to defend itself. Breathe once for the body, once for the mind, once for the soul, and notice how the room changes temperature when you choose presence over panic. The messenger never asked you to be perfect. It asked you to be permeable, to let the current pass through you cleanly enough that rooms soften, voices lower, and the way forward reveals itself one step at a time. You do not need a sign when you have become one. Your calm is a lighthouse for those still in the swell. Your kindness is a map for the ones who forgot their own. Your refusal to shrink gives permission to hearts that have lived too long in small spaces. Carry this with humility. Give the glory back to the source. But do not hide the flame. The world is colder when you do. From here, the path is beautifully simple. Wake as if dawn is an assignment. Work as if devotion is a craft. Rest as if heaven invented sleep for you. Speak less often and more true. Bless more than you correct. Keep your pace one breath slower than fear prefers, and one breath braver than comfort allows. This is how light learns your name and begins to answer when you call. Some will recognize you before you speak. They will feel their shoulders drop in your presence, as if they have arrived somewhere familiar. Smile and keep walking. The grid is building itself, light to light, heartbeat to heartbeat, without the noise of announcement. You are part of something vast, ancient, and holy, and the most radical thing you can do is live it in ordinary hours until the extraordinary has no choice but to bloom. If your spirit is nodding, anchor it with a simple vow. I will not rush. I will not shrink. I will walk as a living signal. Whisper it now. Let the unseen hear it. And then step back into your day with the quiet authority of one who knows the sky is watching through their eyes. Because it is. And tonight, when you look up, you will not just see a messenger crossing the dark. You will recognize a reflection. Thank you for walking this far with me. If this resonance steadied you, stay close. We're only just beginning, and there is more to unfold. Until we meet again, keep your heart soft, your spine bright, and your footsteps faithful. The heavens are moving through you. Go in peace.